I got my big hair on for big Jupiter. What the heck does Jupiter mean and what is it doing for you? What do I love? This is where you are abundant. This is where you are exaggerated to the limits. Hi, my friends. It's Meredith, your evolutionary astrologer, and today we are going to have a blast because we're going to talk about Jupiter through the signs, Aries through Pisces. And I want you to think about this video in a few different ways, okay? I'm going to take you through the signs, not necessarily the houses. We're going to do that in a different video. And this is also going to be sort of the shortcut version of Jupiter through the signs. But I would love for you to learn about Jupiter through all 12 signs, not just your sign, because you're going to understand how the energy of each sign is really exaggerated. Now, I hope you guys all watched The Meaning of Jupiter in the Natal Chart or in Astrology first, because I go deep into an hour-long conversation of what the heck does Jupiter mean and what is it doing for you. We know that it is the planet of good luck, expansion, abundance, personal growth, your belief system. It governs our laws, our moral compass, and it's where you're going to stretch. It's where you're going to be a little bit exaggerated. Sometimes if you have a really prominent Jupiter, especially like on your rising sign or on the midheaven, or if it's conjunct your sun, you come in super exaggerated. You come in over the top. You come in larger than life because Jupiter is enormous. And I talk all about it in that video. So after this video, please go watch that video and welcome to my Jupiter series. I love the planet Jupiter. I'm a Jupiterian girl. I am going to go deep into the core of Jupiter in my Barcelona workshop. And I'm going to show you your Jupiter gifts. Like, where are you lucky and abundant? And how can you use Jupiter in your life? I'm going to go into it really deep. We're going to do a whole day workshop on Jupiter. And I'm going to work with your charts, specifically with your individual charts in Barcelona at my retreat. Are you coming? Did you get your ticket? October 10th this year. It's just around the corner. It's going to be a blast. But we're going to go do a deep dive in Barcelona. So I'm just sort of giving you the cliff notes today because I want you to be able to work with something, because we're going to do the deeper, more profound work together. And I'm also going to continue in this series, Jupiter through the houses, transiting Jupiter, natal Jupiter, and your progressed Jupiter. You should be looking at all of them. And I'm also going to be talking about the aspects to Jupiter, because we get like really yummy, juicy aspects when Jupiter is in aspect, when transiting Jupiter is in aspect to our natal or progressed Jupiter, or when transiting Jupiter is in aspect to the other planets in our chart. It brings different things. So I'm going to also give you guys a video on that. But today is the cliff notes on Jupiter through the signs. So I want you to listen to it based on your natal placement. Jupiter doesn't move very much in the progressed chart. It can move a little bit. So if you have a natal Jupiter at a 0 degree or 29 degree, go look at it in your progressed chart and see if it moved. And if it did, I want you to listen for both signs. I also want you to remember that while I'm filming this, Jupiter is at 18 degrees Gemini. So what does 18 degrees Gemini do in your chart, right? What house is it in? And what is it interacting with? You really got to think about, wow, what is Jupiter doing? Jupiter's really challenging me right now by transit. It's in a really hard place in my chart, to tell you the truth. So it's kind of expanding the hard things in my life. And I talk about the duality of Jupiter in my last video, the meaning of Jupiter in astrology, the meaning of Jupiter in your natal chart, because it's not always, a big fat juicy, blessing. It's not always like a New York deli pastrami sandwich, right? It sometimes can bring hard things. And so I'm in a really big challenge in my life right now in 6 different ways. It's been one of the hardest times of my life with my stepdad being really ill and my family trying to figure our sort of new normal and how we can take care of not only him, but my mom too. And I've got some other really challenging things. but I am trying so hard to remember who I am on the inside, sort of lock myself into my usual happiness and joy. And I'm trying to get back to my joy and my happiness. It's not on a weekly basis or a monthly basis or a once in a while basis. It's on an hourly basis. And the world is really, really kind of hard right now, as you can see. If you're awake and walking around this planet, I'm sure you see the difficulties and the challenges in your little corner pocket of the world too. And so Jupiter can bring in hard times in a big way when it's in challenging aspect as well. And I cover that in my last video a little bit. But I am anxious to talk to you, or eager, I should say, to talk to you about what does it mean when Jupiter is in a particular sign. So listen to this with your natal chart in mind. So where's your natal placement of Jupiter by sign? And then I want you to think about Jupiter in Gemini for everybody, and what is it doing in your chart? Is it in hard aspect to your sun, to your own Jupiter? Is it in hard aspect to a malefic planet or a benefic planet, right? What is it creating in your life? And then I want you to go and look at people that you really, really admire and people in your family, and go look and see where their Jupiter is, because that's where they're exaggerated. So let's dive in. By the way, I slept in rollers last night. I have my 1984 hair back. This is about what I looked like going off to college. Big old 80s hair. Yeah, I slept in these little silk rollers. My daughter rolled up my hair for me last night, and I undid it this morning. I was like, whoa. So welcome. This is definitely Jupiter, but isn't it good? I got my big hair on for big Jupiter. Jupiter's the largest planet in astrology and in the solar system, and I love Jupiter. I think you're going to see that the workshop in Barcelona is absolutely invaluable, because we're going to talk also a lot about what it means to have a Jupiter return. And those are like the luckiest years of your life. They're really, really good. Jupiter wants to bring in largeness, bigger energy. It wants to bring in optimism. And so I want to just say, when it's in Aries, so if you are a Jupiter in Aries person, your courage is so contagious that you conquer all doubters. Yeah. Jupiter in Aries, just for the little cliff notes, not going all the way into the PhD of Aries like we're going to do in Barcelona. I just want to kind of tell you that Jupiter in Aries gives you kind of a big, baddie, bold, adventurous spirit. And it creates a desire to seize new opportunities. There's an assertiveness with this placement, a very serious assertiveness. And you're going to seem or appear like you're a more outgoing person. You're more enthusiastically courageous. There's a spirit to try new things. You might also see that somebody with this placement is blessed with physical strength. Like this could be the gold medal winner with Jupiter in Aries. Jupiter in Aries really likes to lead, and they usually kind of have a high style, and they can be quite the fashionista. I'll also tell you, people with Jupiter in Aries are usually influencers. They can be very direct, very bold. They call it like it is, say it like it is, and they push themselves to the limits. They love to embrace new beginnings. As a matter of fact, they thrive on new things all the time. And I would say, let me just give you a tiny bit of a pro tip, okay? They're not here necessarily to grow their confidence. They already have a sense of self and a sense of confidence. This is probably the most fearless Jupiterian placement. They are here to execute that confidence, to channel that confidence and put it out there into the world and become a leader in some way. Use that confidence to manifest new adventures, new opportunities that require their confidence and courage, okay? So it's like they came with a boatload of confidence. And so now, as a Jupiter and Aries person, which I don't have, I'm just saying, it's my goal, it's my destiny to put myself in a situation that requires more of me than what I've ever used before. And it's to utilize that enormous courage. Now, if you are a Jupiter and Aries person and you are not courageous, that's why we don't do sun sign astrology. We really have to look at the entirety of your chart, and we have to see, why is that stifled and why is that blocked? And that's why aspects matter. And you should watch my aspects video series for sure. Like, look at your Jupiter aspects and then learn what the aspects are doing in your chart. chart. But I'll tell you, this is a very persuadable placement. They usually go first. They're usually quite influential. They usually are first at something. They usually break trends in a way, in an adventurous, pioneering way. I'll just give you some examples. So look at Reese Witherspoon. She is such an entrepreneur. She's not just an actress. Look at Angelina Jolie. Look at Salvador Dali. Look at Mae West. Wow, is she not the quintessential Jupiter in Aries? Johnny Depp also has this placement. Jack Nicholson and Oscar Wilde, right? And even Michelle Obama. Oh, I don't want to leave out Russell Crowe. And I also really, really don't want to leave out Helen Keller. These are courageous people. These people speak boldly. Whatever it is they set out to do, as long as there's a risk in it, they will probably do it with greatness. I will tell you what's hard about this is that these people can actually hurt other people's feelings unknowingly. They are not born with the intention to be cruel, but because they are so direct, sometimes they don't intend to hurt other people, but they can be thoughtless and careless. They can act first and then think about it second. And they can also step on other people to get that which they want. Whatever they want in life, they can step on other people. Now, again, these are just the cliff notes. So I want to talk about Jupiter in Taurus. You know, I say this is the placement of savoring the beautiful life. And Jupiter in Taurus emphasizes the ability to create stability and security in their lives. But also there's a genuine feeling of synthesis, being one with nature. There can be an internal restlessness around their material needs, like I need to buy a house, or I need more money, or I need a secure job, right? So there can be a restlessness until they really understand their relationship to security and start to fulfill their material needs. And I'm going to tell you, out of all of the Jupiter signs, this is the one who wears the rose-colored glasses the least. They have the least idealistic perspective. They rarely see the glass as, half full. And I don't mean they're pessimistic. I mean, they are pragmatic and they are realists. What I love about this placement is they love to live in the real world, the world right now. All we have is right now. And they know how to create sort of a comfortable, tranquil, Zen-like real world. I love Jupiter in Taurus. They like achievable dreams. They like realistic goals. They are not going to live where unicorns, leprechauns, and fairies live, even though they might build a fairy garden. And they might, because they really do come to genuinely appreciate the earthbound world. I have so much to say about each one of these signs, and that's why I'm going to go deeper into it in Barcelona. I probably could do an entire hour on each sign, and it's so important to understand your Jupiter placements because this is where you are abundant. This is where you are exaggerated. Because I have so much Jupiter in my chart, most people guess my sun sign as my Jupiter sign. Isn't that funny? Your Jupiter placement is usually really loud, even if it's in an introverted sign. But I'll tell you one of my favorite things about Jupiter in Taurus, and that is that they have a reservoir of steadiness, and they really know how to help other people feel comfortable. They are searching and seeking and desiring comfort. And I'll tell you, they usually approach life through practical achievements. They're here to develop a deep inner faith through hard work, having good responsibilities in life. I'll also tell you Jupiter in Taurus is oftentimes exaggerated beauty. I think that there's also sometimes with these people, you'll have to tell me, they don't usually have an insecurity around money. Yes, around stability and security, but they usually, I'll just tell you, there's a generosity here. There is an abundance of charm. Oftentimes they don't have a scarcity perspective. Some Taurus people will really experience life as just being extraordinarily generous. And they feel like somehow, some way, I will be okay materially. Because, see, they come usually with an abundance to create wealth, to create their own money, or to step into financial or material abundance, even through an inheritance. They have a remarkable capacity for giving. But when they are challenged, it can go awry. It depends how Jupiter is aspected and in what house it's in. But if this Jupiter in Taurus person is too focused on the material or possessions or a luxurious life filled with food, fashion, and effing, they become gluttonous and really wasteful and very lazy and actually disappointed in their own life because they become self-indulgent, even exhibitionistic and self-opinionated, and they dig their heels in and they stop taking risks. They stop growing. Food is a huge, huge place of importance here. So their relationship to food is exaggerated in some way, shape, or form. They could just be great foodies. There's tons more that I will be saying about this placement. I do want you guys to continue learning with me. So keep on listening. We're going to talk about Gemini, and that's where it is right now in our solar system. That's where it's at. And so everybody is experiencing a little bit of the Jupiter and Gemini placement. So one of the things I really want to express about Jupiter and Gemini is traditional astrologers will say Jupiter and Gemini is in detriment. But I really appreciate Jupiter and Gemini's placement because it is information overload, but it's a time when you can really learn a lot. Oftentimes, this is a great time to also write, communicate, speak, become a speaker, teach, learn. The author that wrote the Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle, he was so respected and he was so well known, very famous, and he also became, I believe, wealthy from his writings. I think he was the most well-paid author of his time. He had Jupiter and Gemini, and so one of the things that Jupiter and Gemini can do is it becomes a brilliant networker. So also, I want to tell you that Charles Dickens had this placement, and I learned from Stephen Aroro. Charles Dickens placed his novels in a series in the newspaper because he had his finger on the pulse of what would bring people together. And so there is a grand scale, grand ability to network with others. You can see right now on the world stage that we're being fractured and severed and also reevaluating if we want to live in separate silos, if we want to continue living within labels, right? Somebody said before 2004, I guess, in the United States, we didn't live with red states, with the concept of red states and blue states, Democratic states and Democrat states and Republican states. We just lived in states, and you were a Democrat, I was a Republican, or vice versa, but we didn't define ourselves like that. And so Jupiter in Gemini does have this ability and this capacity to bring people together. And I think even though it takes time for it to happen, I think there is desire. I think there is genuine desire to have people come together, to create peace treaties, to merge, to work well together again, and to not live in the separateness of who you are versus who I am. And that is Gemini and Jupiter. People with Jupiter and Gemini usually move quick, talk fast, are brilliant communicators, quick thinkers, quick calculators. They make lots of friends, have lots of variety, endless curiosity. They enjoy lively big conversations, exploring new ideas. Their mind is exaggerated. Their voice is exaggerated. They are absolutely brilliant writers, communicators, singers, right? And I will say that they are the fountain of youth. They really bring a youthful attitude and open-mindedness to life. One of my very favorite philosophers and writers, Khalil Gibran, is a Jupiter and Gemini person. I also think Alexander Graham Bell has this placement. Thomas Edison has this placement. And also the person who founded the Montessori teaching style also has this placement. Stephen Aroro points that out in his Jupiter book. I think her name was Maria Montessori. Isn't that neat? Like a new way of thinking, creating curiosity in the child. There is a high intelligence factor. These are usually very brainy people. These people usually win at Trivia Pursuit. I think it's very interesting. Jacqueline Kennedy had this aspect. Isn't it interesting that John F. Kennedy was a Gemini? So she put her Jupiter on his sun, at least by sign. One thing that I want to say is when Gemini and Jupiter goes awry or is challenged, I find that these people overtalk, they interrupt, they're not very good listeners, and they also don't manage their voice very well. So it's like they talk at you rather than inviting you to listen. Have you ever had anybody do that to you? Like, let me tell you about my day. You won't believe what happened to me. Right? Rather than, let me tell you about my day. You won't believe what happened to me, right? Like they don't invite you in. They just kind of like slam you with a cream pie of communication. And I find that they just have this like gift of gossip or gab. I find sometimes that Jupiter and Geminis are serious know-it-alls, really obnoxious. They know a little bit about everything. And so they think they know a lot of everything and they really don't. And that's when it's just not well developed. I also want to say there's a little bit of a rule breaker in Jupiter and Gemini. Like they really don't sometimes have the patience to just follow all the rules. They can be kind of intellectually creative that way, but they can be a little bit of a rule breaker, which is kind of interesting. Tell me if you're liking this video and tell me your Jupiter placement for sure, because I want to know. And by the way, if you are a member, a super supporter, or a superstar super supporter, I try my best to answer your questions. I'm not perfect at it, but I do try as a little bit of a thank you for joining and becoming a member. And if you haven't become a member, I hope so much that you will, because it keeps this channel alive and it allows me to do this kind of work. And I am so, so grateful. And if you are a superstar super supporter, you need to email your birth information so you can get your gorgeous natal chart. And after 3 months, we will give you your entire year's personalized forecast, but you have to email Lydia at teamsoulnavigation@gmail.com if you sign up for the superstar super supporter. And I just wanted to say thank you. It means the world to me. Okay, let's talk about Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter in Cancer is pretty amazing. And when you meet a Jupiter in Cancer person, you usually really feel it. There's this exaggerated emotional capacity to take care of others. You'll also see that oftentimes these people have an exaggerated sense of family and family values and family virtues. They usually find that their world is rich and abundant through care, through thoughtfulness, and there is a guiding light that guides them to creating a deep internal inner security for themselves and for others. There might be a large desire to be inside a family unit, to create their own family, maybe become a parent. There is also an enormous intuition with this placement. Now, I want to tackle Jupiter in Cancer a little bit differently, because Jupiter in Cancer needs to learn how to get out of their emotional wounds. Oftentimes, they have very painful emotional wounds that they can be self-indulgent in. They might not know that about themselves, but they could really wallow and become emotionally paralyzed because there is such a gargantuan sensitivity. All the water signs are like this, by the way. This is true for Scorpio and Pisces too. Instead of sort of looking for that person that will bring them emotional security, they have a deep wealth of emotional security inside of themselves, and they're here to learn how to manage their own emotional internal landscape, manage their own emotional wounds, learn how to heal themselves, and learn how to self-soothe, take care of themselves. And they usually grow themselves through their humanness, through their great capacity to heal themselves and heal others. Here's also the irony of Jupiter in Cancer, and that is that they are here to take emotional risks around becoming vulnerable. Like, I'll show you mine if you show me yours, right? My heart, my feelings, my wounds, my secrets. And they don't want to. They're risk adverse when it comes to this. But once they start doing this, once they have a person that is worthy of that place in their life, wow, they become so rich. They receive the bounty in their life. The negative or the hard or the challenging part of Jupiter in Cancer is that they can stay so stuck inside their wounds. They're here to develop or foster a sense of deep security and emotional comfort within themselves and lend that to others as well. And they will find just this bountiful place of love, but only if they learn how to open up their hearts, give from the heart, allowing other people to see their love and their fears. I want to give you a couple examples of Cancer in Jupiter people, because they have a deep humanitarian, like they really care about causes. They can be quite nationalistic, super protective. They are sort of the mama bear. So Neil Armstrong has this placement, right? And I think he had a lot of pride in his country. I also want to tell you that the evangelist Billy Graham, who was a pastor, a minister, he actually was at that time in the 70s and 80s in the United States. He was a Christian evangelical. He was really beloved that he kind of became America's adopted Christian minister, and he became sort of the pastor for presidents of the United States. Now, whether that's your belief system or not, I'm just telling you, like, he found his own calling and his high purpose in lending his heart and his compassion to people and to presidents, to people in high places and to the common man. And he was kind of adopted. I didn't particularly follow him, but I do know his place in history. I also want to say Nat King Cole and Paul McCartney have this placement. And so there is something about this placement that creates a beloved feeling, like a popularity, not necessarily fame and fortune, but like an I love you placement. It can be very, very sweet. Also, one of my favorite actresses, Margot Robbie, has this placement, and she just was Barbie in the famous revival movie Barbie. And she revived Barbie. And so I just want you to think about that. Like, this is a very sensitive position. And I will also say there is a social grace with Cancers. They seem to know exactly what you need. And they also, instead of giving you a Band-Aid, they give you a cookie. So they know what makes you feel better. It's very easy to feel so loved and even fall in love with a Jupiter in Cancer person because they instinctively and intuitively know what it is you need for them to care of you. They're phenomenal with small children, babies, even teenagers. They're sort of your favorite teacher at school, maybe, or a coach. They are great with the underdog just because they have a tremendous amount of compassion. But they have to probably do some healing on their own before they can save others because they can be so deep in their pain and their wounds and their feelings and their hurts that they become myopic and they can't necessarily see what's out there because they're so stuck in here. Do you have this placement? Let me know a little bit about you and your story and how you feel about this placement. If this is you, I would love to know. Okay, Jupiter in Leo is sort of a double regal sign because Leo is the king of the jungle, right? And as you guys know from my last video, Jupiter is the god of all gods. There is definitely a spotlight on leadership, on being influential, on being extraordinarily creative, and there's a charisma with these people usually. And there's usually a desire for recognition or to be recognized for their greatness, whatever it is that they do that is great. They want recognition for that. They want to be respected, renowned, and regarded. There is usually an amplification of massive creative talent with these people. What's interesting is it doesn't come in one shape or size. I mean, this could be a singer, songwriter, artist to the president of the world, right? This could be anywhere in between. But there is a natural drive to express themselves through either performance or through talent, utilizing their talent and putting it into the world. But I will tell you, these people usually have a gargantuan heart. There is a great generosity. And when you bask in their light, you feel like the radiance is so palpable. You feel like you are in a magic moment. And so there is an enthusiasm and a flair and a confidence. All the fire signs, wherever you have fire signs, Aries, Sagittarius, or Leo, this is where you come with a little extra confidence. However, they can be overbearing. They can be too big-hearted. They can run their agenda over you, and they can want what they want when they want it and how they want it. Me, myself, and I, right? And so they can kind of inadvertently disregard what it is you wanted because the thing they wanted was just so big and so grand they couldn't see beyond it. So sometimes they do get too self-focused, too self-driven on the creative goal or the creative dream that is just heart palpitating inside of them, just dying to get out. They also can sort of live for the drama in life, and that can be exciting and invigorating, and it can just feel like, oh my gosh, let me tell you what happened on the way to the train station when I was walking down the street and I met this person. You're not going to believe it. It was absolutely, and so they're enthralling storytellers, and because they see life as just this great drama that wants to be lived out and expressed. And so there's a contagiousness with this placement. This is a fun placement, but this is also a very, very deeply spiritual placement too, because Leo, is ruled by the sun, and the sun-Jupiter aspects creates, this Jupiter in Leo creates a big identity around Jupiterian qualities because Leo is ruled by the sun. So now we're talking about identity. Jupiter in Leo, I would say, has visions of love, and they want to build a life that they are madly, passionately in love with. They have to go way beyond the desire to be recognized, way beyond the ego, and go into the space and the place of what do I love, and then execute their life, live out their life from that heart-centered place. And when they come from this grand place of love, that's when they find their golden trough filled with 24 karat love. Love for life, love for their lover, love for their endeavors, love of their dreams, love of their goals, right? That's how a Leo thrives. And so Jupiter in Leo is chasing this idealistic concept of falling in love with life through using their creative talents. There's usually a confidence, like I said, with this placement. Robert De Niro has this placement. Also, look at the imagination of George Lucas. He also has this placement too. And there can be kind of a flamboyance with this placement. I think it's very interesting because Mick Jagger has this placement, but let me tell you about somebody who has this placement that made me go, and that is John Denver. And one thing about John Denver that I love, if you ever get a chance to watch a documentary or watch a Netflix series on him, please go watch it. He was one of the most beautiful human beings on the planet, and he died loving life. He loved to fly, and he was a pilot, and I think he wanted to be an eagle, to tell you the truth. I think he wanted to be a bird. He loved climbing mountains. He loved nature, and that's all he sang about. What he sang about, nature and love. And he soared in his plane, and he loved it. He loved being up there on the treetops and, where the birds could fly. And he followed his dreams so creatively, so passionately. He was a soft-spoken, not a flamboyant Jupiter in Leo. And I think he had a spiritual quest and crusade through his music, through nature, through flying. He's just a very interesting person to study. Study his life and look at Jupiter in Leo with humility abound. However, I will tell you something. People sort of underestimated him, and he didn't like that. He wanted to be highly regarded for his craft and his work, but in a humble way. And I think it's because he was more spiritually evolved than most. So just think about that. Okay, one of my very favorite placements is Jupiter in Virgo. And what's ironic about this is traditional astrologers will say that Jupiter in Virgo is actually in detriment, but I don't really believe that it's so, especially if you're working with a really healthy person. It gives you a strong sense of duty, service to self, service to others, service to making things better, to improving the world, your world, people who you care about, world, and has a high attention to detail. I mean, I love my Jupiter and Virgo people. And if you guys have watched my Virgo playlist, you know that I love this placement. There is an expansion of finding your higher self through the service, the organization, and the efficiency of being utilized in important regard, important details. Your analytical mind, they're very pragmatic, practical. I would even say, this is not a gullible position. They're always looking for what is wrong or what can be improved. And so they become genius problem solvers. So think of Amelia Earhart, right? I hate to think of her final days, but think of what a brave, courageous, absolutely brilliant woman she was, right? Becoming a pilot before women were really doing that and traveling, making the first solo trip around the world. Also, I want you to think of the U.S. Senator and first astronaut to orbit the world. That was John Glenn. And so these are not small-minded people. These people live in the Rubik's Cube, the hypotheses of cause and effect, the strategic, the analytical, that they can become geniuses. There is such a high intelligence that I don't see anything. And that is why I am not a traditional astrologer. This is why I am a modern evolutionary astrologer. I really see life through a modern lens. I see astrology through a modern lens. I also want to tell you, in my last video when I was talking about Jupiter, I think I was talking about Ralph Waldo Emerson and what an incredible human being he was. Like, wow, such a philosopher, brilliant writer, and Emerson College is named after him. But he does have Jupiter in Virgo, and Jupiter in Virgo was on his ascendant. I will tell you that one of the hardest things about Jupiter and Virgo is the pressure that this placement puts on people. There is this desire to find this greatness through perfection, through intelligence, through deep analytics. So Ralph Waldo Emerson was born, I believe, to a Boston minister, and his family had very high expectations. They were very smart. His dad died of tuberculosis, and then he watched his brothers, I think he had a couple brothers, two brothers die of tuberculosis also. And he also suffered with tuberculosis, although I don't think he passed away from it. One of the things that I read about him in his biography was Emerson was very humble, and he felt like he did not live up to the expectations of his family. However, he was the most revered intellectual person, philosopher, lecturer of that time. And he also was weakened by tuberculosis. So he was very self-deprecating, self-critical inside his journals. He really spoke poorly about himself. He was really, really hard on himself. It's really quite sad because to this day, he is one of the most brilliant men to ever walk the earth. And he became just electrifying. He lit up the world intellectually, philosophically, spiritually, and he was one of the most brilliant essayists and poets. And still to this day in 2024, he is so highly regarded and so revered, but he had a critical thought process about himself. And that is what Jupiter and Virgo can do. They can actually have so much anxiety around feeling like they don't live up to the sense of who they should be, right? And so they're on a huge improvement kick and wellness. This goes into the physical too. This video is so long, I decided to do it in 2 parts. So I want you to come back for part 2, where you can watch Jupiter through this whole second half of the zodiac. And I hope so much that you are loving learning with me on this beautiful, magical astrological journey. Are you guys loving learning about Jupiter? I'm going to do so much more on it, but stay tuned for part 2 of Jupiter through the signs, and then I will take you also through the houses. And I also hope, if you really want to learn more about Jupiter and the aspects and how Jupiter brings you your good luck, it's your lucky charm and all of the abundance it brings you, I hope that you will come study with me in Barcelona, grab your passport and come drink kava with me and eat tapas, and we will learn. It is going to be an incredible, incredible journey because we are going to go deep into your charts. It's a small, intimate group, and it is going to be life transforming.
Meredith is my dream teacher. I'm so grateful to be here in beautiful Barcelona. Y'all, we saw a flamenco show and it just tied everything together. My brain is kind of exploding, but in the best way possible. Create a community that is really just lifelong.
I'm not joking. So go buy your ticket, shopsoulnavigation.com. Also, I want to say thank you for being a member. And if you aren't a member, I hope you'll join. You'll get all my behind the scenes videos, 65 different videos. You will learn so much when you become a member. So if you really want to understand your out of bounds planets, Jupiter transits, learning astrology with me, compatibility in a complex chart. If you want to learn my personal tips and techniques reading the chart, progressions, your moons, your Mercury, Pluto's hidden meaning in the chart, interceptions, how to see your past life. That was one of my favorite ones. Come become a member. It's only $2.99, and it actually helps keep this channel alive. And I'm so grateful because it allows me to do more videos like this and teach you real astrology. I hope you're loving this journey. And from my house to wherever you are at in the world, I wish you the very best. Take good care of yourself, and happy Jupiter.